The page folds, the ink dries, the digital bits glow, and the world is changed. Laura Watts, Transmissions, Critical Tactics for Making and Communicating Research. This paper will be presented in the stream of consciousness poetic format video essay mode. It is a reenactment of a method I've used to open poems up to group associations and inhabiting. Echo because we send our associations outward into the digital space. Hologram because we are projecting onto a flat plane to the sense of depth. In this paper, I will outline a means for inhabiting poem in echologram. What is an echologram? An apparatus to record, process, and present the dimensionality of language. Glowing membrane of the planar, the screen opened up into inhabitable space. A spreadsheet, possibly the most uncreative, creative, and also underexplored plates of capture. I've taken inspiration by the work of James Nestor via a long now presentation on sperm whale communication, clicking you inside out. It is now thought that cetaceans and sperm whales are sharing information with each other all the time in a kind of ultrasound image sharing biological internet. Whether this is discovered to be accurate or not is not important. It is the imaginary reach, the empathetic making kin encounter that allows us to reach for other possible modes of communication, through which we can extend our own communicative practices. The spreadsheet is as underthought about for creative practices as the sperm whale's mode of communication is. John Durham Peters in The Marvelous Clouds sums this up nicely and says on cetacean ocean communication, what is perhaps natural for them, nonlinear data access, is a matter of cultural techniques for us and is only made possible by recording media. This complete digital delivery situation presented the opportunity to experiment, maybe too much, with digital planes, landscapes, arrangements, recording media to excess. And while the opportunity was here, I really wanted to make kin with the sperm whale, perform a bit of decolonization of the spreadsheet planar space, and ask if imaginary, Glissant's definition of imaginary, which kind of forms our oceanic medium, could reanimate open associations volume and allow us to inhabit and extract from Manny Rao's echolocation. A framework of echoes, an experience of poetics in the way a sperm whale might. In Nestor's presentation, he suggests that freediving with sperm whales has achieved more than decades of from-the-boat style research. And with this in mind, I'd like us to jump over the rail into an ocean of thoughts and words. At this point, I'd like to mention that you should feel free to write words for yourself, participate in the task, and compare associations, as in the example of the activity that I'm about to show. Bodies of text, bodies of association, bodies of system, bodies of negotiation, bodies becoming, bodies beyond umbrella of species, bodily senses and red conceptual bodies, bodily senses in those other bodies, bodily relating, bodily projection, this body, I body, text body, water body, re-immersion, thinking body, reanimation, mammalian dive reflex body, familiar body, becoming imaginary body, body embracing, becoming body, body out of body, body, thinking material body, radically embodied cognitive science body, agent environment dynamics body, theories of mind, poetics of relation, cultural bodies, John Durham Peters of cetaceans and ships, projected prisms of spreadsheets, digital bodies, holographic sonar, poetic bodies, One Too Many Emergence magazine, eco-activities and article body, cultural ecology, grammar of reciprocity, all wrapped up in an associative stream practice, automatic writing body, a relational prism out of planes, summoned bodily imagery, many ways deep, many ways ashore. Let's all take a deep breath together in 1, 2, 3, and out. 1, 2, 3. Sound navigation and ranging, cetacean communication, sperm whales communicate in hologram. In storms and clicks and pops, 16,000 symbolic gestures in short 2-second shot. Think superpowered X-ray eyes, complete imaging, ultrasound beyond. Instantaneous relating of the imaginary. A sperm whale neocortex is 6 times larger than a human's relative to body. The neocortex is thought too. Govern higher level effective thought, future planning and language. Sperm whales also have spindle cells. Long and highly developed brain structures. Neurologists associate spindle cells with compassion, love, suffering, and speech. Sperm whales have spindle cells in far larger quantity than we do, for 15 million years longer than we have. A whale might dive down to 8,000 feet for 90 minutes at a time. We are going to submerge ourselves into one single poem for 5 minutes or so. With the wider imaginary, body of text, body of association, words relating bodies, make a poesis group dimensional, holographic. Can our pod read a poem? Venture out in this wet ontology deep. I'm going to read a poem out of context. Double slit thoughts and words, waves and particles across our individual gravities, across spreadsheet plate of capture, across our relating network body, across field notes, evolving strands of rhizomic interpretation of poetic body. Prose poem. I'll read a line and pause, peak of the wave. Ask you to choose a word from that line, write it down. Then I'll read another line and pause, ask you to choose a word, trough of the wave. From that line, write it down. We'll repeat to build our live ocean. Sentences are washed out. There are swimming lanes and blue box stanza rooms to shape our sonar radiation. In the choosing, choose words that call with bodily association, words that weave and spin memory, words loud with unconscious call to you. Don't worry about what others choose. Materialize in action, read in with association, strata with recollection, general pull together, dual ends condense and polarities pulling, held together by relational gravity, will form a neutrino array deep underground. Record the bounce backs, thoughts, and senses. Poem sense sonar pulse, your associations, your response, your responses. The poem living, sights for you, rise dimensionality for us, share senses in the flat plane, network connected body, associations connected to other associations in holographic red, reeds below beneath the surface kelp forest. The sea might be a medium for immaterial arts. This poesis technology is our boat. Now, jump over and swim. Select a whale, delete the whale, become the whale, subsume the whale, write or signify what you like in this golden square as a representation. We'll move down square by square representing, line by line. I'll count the line, at each break of line I'll pause, you can write the word on the walls of your standard room, hallowed graphic, holographic, technicolor, imaginary and the whale. The sky is fitted linen, stretched over sea line without a crease. Write your word. Pegged to the spikes and jags of mountains, king size, navy, pre. Write your word. Pairing to be sunshot, sooner than lovers can hide, no sooner. Write your word. Then the taste of stars striking your lips, one by one stunned. Write your word. And falling into light. Write your word. It's all been said and yet need blowing between our lips. Write your word. Streams inside a tree, we flowed our time and back so soon. Write your word. Eating eggs our own, through each we pass like water. Write your word. At the sun to see how it never changes, at the moon to see how. Write your word. It does. Algae slipping beneath our feet, roots travelling and. Write your word. Dewdrops dying in visible speed, there is no such thing as a. Write your word. Circular river. Write your word. Unlike bread, the body becomes softer with age. We tag our. Write your word. Children with our names, store the plats of our daughters. Write your word. Stash berries under rocks and look for them later. Write your word. Held in the fangs of a wristwatch, a well-worn path of a nail in. Write your word. Our veins, heart-hammered time trail. Write your word. No matter who two are kissing, eternity arrives, Jellybean. Write your word. Eyes black crystal balls, the longer we look, the more we. Write your word. Recognize, and anything we could say is too obvious. The songs. Write your word. We like are the songs we know, and every song on the radio is. Write your word. About us. Write your word. At this point, we look around us, and the spreadsheet magic reveals the highest association pings, the sonar shape of association, line by line. Take a moment to look at what imaginary others collected out of the individual lines of the poem. Is it superrelative? Does the body of a poem come together holographically? Look at your words that make up the individual lines. I'll open up the poem so you can see the representations we made as a group around Manny Rao's amazing prose poem Slice from Echolocation. Crease, mountains, lovers, stars, light. Need, streams, water. Never roots, dews, circular. Bread, daughters, later. Nail, hammered. Kissing crystals, songs. No, us. A whole other poem out of our associations arises out of the spreadsheet process. And this is just really taking the most popular or the first put down in each of the lines. This could be set in a number of different ways, and we could arrange potentially like so many different ways of engaging with the poem via the spreadsheet capture. By exploring the multiplanar space, a projection of co-created waters in the deep of the spreadsheet, we have created what Deleuze and Guattari might call a body without organs. An assemblage to map assemblage, diffracted individual responses overlapping, mildly processed array, raised in loose slung prism, associations and slight imprint of choice, a holographic projection. Made live with the echoes of interaction vibrating in between, the overlap allows us to participate in that nonlinear data access place of whale materialities. As Clarke would say, The real properties of physical text transform the space of possible thoughts. From what could be a stark processing place, a deeper feeling is created. Harder to sense in this recreation perhaps, but a connection is formed from our words. Importantly, in an eco-critical sense, a connection that can swim alongside the sperm whale with those words and appreciate that the effects of difference become strings for relating through the imaginary body. A bit like ultrasound, body, a bit like every word, sound, a body becoming endlessly.